and welcome to another game review here on Story Theory. Today we're going to be reviewing XCOM Chimera Squad. So I'll be comparing this a lot to XCOM 2 and the previous XCOM games, but XCOM Chimera Squad takes place, I think, during the XCOM 2 storyline, or just slightly after. So it's basically you are a group or a squad made up of humans and aliens alike, and you can go on missions together that are solely based on that unit, and you can draft other units throughout the game, but pretty much those main characters that you have are going to be your characters throughout the game, and they're going to be your highest level characters. It also introduces a new mechanic to the turn-based strategy. So in previous XCOM games, right, you have a turn with your entire squad, and the enemy team has a turn. So the basic idea is to kill them before they get to shoot at you. Pretty easy. With Chimera Squad, they actually have a turn-based strategy based on each individual player or character on the map. So you could have your sharpshooter go, and then an enemy can go. Or 3 enemies in a row can go before 2 of your squad go. The turn-based is actually based on character and not based on squad. So it's a little bit different in the gameplay. So for our overall ratings here, that's actually why I gave gameplay a 6 out of 10. I did not really like that way of turn-based strategy. It definitely changed up how you play an XCOM game, right? Because you can use, in standard XCOM 2, you can use all your characters' abilities in conjunction with each other and make that flowchart of, hey, I have to do this action with this character, then this action with this character, and I can check out all the angles and make sure that, like, this character's taking the shot because he has a higher percentage to hit than others. With Chimera Squad, it's really about setting up your characters for future success in the timeline. So I know if I have one character going on this turn, but then then there's 2 enemy turns, and then 3 of my team are in a row, I probably can't kill those 2 enemies after my first character's turn. However, those other 3 guys could probably kill those 2 before that guy's turn gets back up. So that way I would have all 4 characters right in a row. So that way you kind of try and stack your characters throughout the turn to get them as close to each other as possible. So that way the first person in line can set up the second set up the third, so on and so forth. I wasn't really that big of a fan of that style of gameplay. And it's not because it just changed up the strategy or just the way that it flowed. It was more like, I'm the kind of person that I want to set everything up at the beginning, and I want to set everybody up for success, and then I want to play it out. And with Chimera Squad, you really couldn't do that. You kind of had to take it more as character by character basis. And it just, I enjoyed the game, don't get me wrong, but it just did not work it didn't work for me. And it didn't work for my strategy in the game. So that's kind of why I gave it a 6 out of 10, because this is my review, and I just didn't like playing that way. So, market, I gave a 5 out of 10. I didn't really hear anything about Chimera Squad for the longest time, and then all of a sudden it came on a Steam sale, and I was like, what is this? This is by Firaxis Games? Like, this is an XCOM game? That's weird. I haven't heard anything about it, so I bought it and started playing it, and it felt like, and I'm going to tie this into value being at 4 out of 10, it felt like this could have been an XCOM 2 DLC package. Like, War of the Chosen was a massive DLC, and they had a couple of other, like, small packs, like the Anarchy pack, which gave a bunch of different cosmetics. Then they had the alien bosses, that was, like, kind of a thing, and then Shen's Last Gift, which was, like, 3 or 4 missions. I don't really count those as, like, they are downloadable content, but it's not, like, an expansion, right? It's more of, like, exactly what they called it. It's like a pack. It can't be a standalone thing, and it doesn't add enough depth to the game to actually make it that different. Then War of the Chosen came along, and that was a huge expansion, absolutely massive. And then I feel like Chimera Squad could have been the second expansion to that, if they could have tied it back in with the original narrative somewhere and said, hey, Chimera Squad, or tied it into the narrative at all and be like, hey, Chimera Squad's going to do this. You could take their mission, and you have those characters that can only be with the Chimera Squad missions or the normal missions. where you can take out any of your guys. I thought that could have been a cool blend of doing it. I feel like it's fine as a standalone game. It just didn't have enough there to make it feel like an XCOM game. Like when I go into an XCOM game, I'm expecting there to be 70 hours of gameplay to get into, and I could stretch that into 120 hours if I wanted to. Chimera Squad just wasn't that. The narrative I gave a 7 out of 10. It was a compelling story. It was interesting to see how the aliens and the humans were kind of getting along and kind of getting involved in the war together, and how they would go on all these missions together and they'd play off each other and stuff. So I did really enjoy that aspect of it. In the long run, it was just like the end of the game is basically a bad faction of humans and aliens, and I don't know, it just didn't have the stakes that a normal XCOM game does too, because every XCOM game is like, hey, the entire planet is all hindering on this one mission, and with Chimera Squad, it's not that. So that's why I gave it a 7 out of 10. Graphics, I gave an 8 out of 10. I did really like the art style and kind of the change to the overall XCOM theme. You know, it was more of like a comic book theme or an anime theme, and I did really like that change in art style. So I did really enjoy that portion of it. Technical, I gave a 4 out of 10. So the very last mission, I actually got into a save position where like I had failed the mission, and then as soon as it reloaded me right before that move where I failed the mission again and failed the mission again, and I could not get out of that loop. It didn't matter what I did because I could only play with that one character on that one turn, and I could not win. I couldn't win the game. I literally had to restart that entire mission multiple times to get to the point where I could finally finish it. So technical, I gave a 4 out of 10. There were a bunch of glitches, a bunch of bugs, and some other stuff where like a couple characters turns would completely end and I wouldn't even be able to play with them, which was super frustrating. So I already talked about value, so I'm good there. And then I'm going to talk about audio a little bit. Audio is an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the voice actors for Chimera Squad. I thought they were really compelling. I thought they did a really good job on that. And overall audio was very good. So for the total score, I gave a 6.4 out of 10 for XCOM Chimera Squad. I thought the concept was interesting, but it's not something that I would like to be completely carried over into an XCOM 3. Like I said, maybe they have like a certain Chimera Squad aspect to XCOM 3 where, hey, they have their own story missions and it's the character turn-based kind of strategy, or you have your story missions that are standard XCOM where your entire squad gets to go and then the enemy squad gets to go. I think that would be a good blend of both strategies in one game, if that could be possible. So thank you for coming to my review. If you enjoyed it, please go see my playlist on Chimera Squad below, and I hope to see you in the next one.